Aloha, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. My name is Sprinklebeard, and today we are going to be reviewing the Viking, the myth, the legend, Voroth. Voroth is a ground fighter, so he is going to excel when you place him down and just guarding a space, much like Wrath. However, he is our frozen counterpart to Wrath's fiery brilliance. So he is a northerner. Now, the northerners tend to have more of a defensive role in this game. They have a lot more shielding effects in their kits, so on and so forth. So let's check out what Voroth brings to the table. So here we see that he is a multi-strike attacker and a counter-attacker. So this counter-attack does work very well with his northern status of having those shields on him. Can allow him to counterattack more often because now not only does he have his HP pool to work with, he also has his ability to counterattack alongside of it. His talent is he has specialized attack speed, provides a greater reduction in attack interval based upon his attack speed attribute. So he has your generic 2.6 attack interval. So for every 100 attack we give him, he will reduce more time based upon that. Another huge thing of note, he does have over 5,000 attack, which is unusual for a lot of the fighters. A lot of the fighters have much closer to like 4,000 attack on average. So him having a good attack stat with this giant axe feels amazing. And then when he ultimates, he ends up drawing out a second axe, and then he attacks with both axes. So that is also why he will heavily scale off of his attack speed. His cost is 16, which is perfectly fine. And then he can block up to 2 units. We don't ever really need him to block more. And as we get to his counterattack, you'll see that him blocking 2, it doesn't matter. All right, so basic attack is physical. Deals 100% damage to one enemy with a 15% chance to land a consecutive hit. So again, here is where the more attack speed he has, the better he will feel. Not only is he attacking faster and therefore dealing more damage, but you're getting to that next chance to have an extra attack land. However, this is still where Wrath has that advantage of Wrath has guaranteed extra hits in his kit. Voroth will try to compete with Wrath, though. It's a really cool comparison. Counterattack. So I absolutely love this in this game, and I love who they gave it to. I'm not super into like the Viking motive, and then like Vikings being covered in ice. Yes, it makes perfect sense. This looks really good, though. This looks like it is all intended, like it's his own magic pouring out ice over top of him to protect him. So him having this counterattack with his giant axe, and his counterattack is not just your basic counterattack. When taking damage, there's a 10% chance to cast Whirlwind Slash, dealing 80% AoE damage. When on the field, reduces damage taken from AoE skills by 5%. I don't know why it says when on the field, because he can only be on the field, but whatever. But him just doing this gigantic 80% AoE damage around him is massive. And as we look down here, AoE damage reduction, we can increase by 5%. So he goes from taking 5% less damage to 10, 15, 20, and then 25% less damage from AoE attacks. For a lot of cases, this is really just bosses. I can't really think of any enemies that have big AoE attacks that you care about, but it is a nice little added feature for him. His Whirlwind Slash goes from 80 to 84, 88, 94, and then 100% AoE damage, which is one of the biggest reasons that you'll see on our Voroth, I have all the skills already maxed out on him already. Lastly, his ultimate, which is Northwind Axe, increases attack speed by 800 and starts to deal rapid dual-wielding strikes, each increasing attack speed by 100, stacking up to 1400. So this is a really very odd combination here, because you gain 800 attack and then you consistently keep gaining 100 attack until you get up to 1400 attack. So it's over 6 seconds you'll max out on attack speed for the last 5 seconds of your ult. And then so your ult lasts for 11 seconds, and then obviously as you level him up, we reduce the skill cost, which feels great, and increase the duration. I don't think this is necessarily the best version of it. Like, I kind of wish that this scaling attack speed came from the skill ups, but this feels very good. As you skill him up, his attack speed will get faster and faster for longer. Feels phenomenal. Feels absolutely great. So let's jump right into his awakenings. So his chance to trigger Whirlwind Slash is increased by 10%. So again, Whirlwind Slash is that counter attack that he has, and you have a base of 10%. So once you awaken him just one time, you go up to 20%. And in this game, I don't know how many of you are actively playing it, but you will know that things that only happen 15 to 20% of the time feel like they're happening like 30% of the time. It does feel very consistent. Here we get 5% attack damage. That is fantastic off of that 5,000 attack stat that he will get when you 6-star him. Triggering Whirlwind Slash, so again, that's the counter attack, restores HP by 5%. What is fantastic is that the Northerners have this shield effect that happens consistently in their kits. Like, that's their faction passive. So him gaining this shield and then being able to regenerate health using Whirlwind Slash feels absolutely amazing. I was so thrilled when I got him up to Awakening 3. Next, he gains 10% HP. I'm a little bit sad about this one. I do wish it was more damage or even attack speed. Would have been really cool with his kit. However, HP is good. This then lets him get off Whirlwind Slash more often. This also gives him more HP per Whirlwind Slash. So it is a very useful awakening for him. It is very good for sure. And then finally, his Awakening 5. When Voroth is shielded, doubles the chances of triggering an extra basic attack and Whirlwind Slash. So Whirlwind Slash, again, was capping off at 20%. That pushes you up to 40% when shielded. And your basic attack was 15%. That's the whirl. Your basic attack is 15% chance. So when shielded, it becomes a 30% chance, which will feel brilliant. And the reason that is, while he is shielded, again, we have his faction bonus. So if he has a faction leader, he will be gaining a shield every, like, I think it's 30 seconds. We'll look in a second here at the passive for it. But more importantly is that he's got other Northerners in the same faction, I mean, of course, that offer shielding effects. So one of the healers for the faction is Vortex. And Vortex has a passive that when he heals a target above 100%, he will put a shield on them equal to 70% of the shielding, equal to the healing effect that he was supposed to give the target. So not only can you rely on it from the faction leader of the clan, but champions like Voroth will also put a shield on, Vortex will put a shield on champions like Voroth. So one of the faction leaders is Dagna here. So increases faction allies' basic attributes by 5%. Periodically grants all faction allies a shield equal to 10% of their max HP for 15 seconds. The more faction allies there are on the team, the more frequently this takes effect. So yeah, I think at one person, like if it's just Dagna, I think it's like once a minute. And then for every member you get out, I think it's like a 5-second reduction. I am making up those numbers. I am letting you know that's exactly how it feels. Unfortunately, I've already done my faction trial for today, so I can't actually show off Voroth to some of his best abilities. But let's talk about where he would be great at other than faction war. So Voroth, with his counterattack ability, we have a phenomenal usage rate for him. It's basically anywhere you want to have a ground unit. If you want to have a ground unit that blocks off those dogs run into Voroth, and then as they attack Voroth to get through him, he will counterattack them back, or he will just kill them by bludgeoning them to death with his giant ice axe. In the campaign, he's absolutely brilliant on every single stage that you could ever have a fighter, so he is definitely a worth bring anywhere in there. In the arena, he is perfectly fine in things like the AoE arena. It is not his best place to shine. However, if you put him back far enough where all the enemies stack up against your inhibitor, I'll call it, if any of them attacks him and then he does his sweep, he will hit everything. Then when you ultimate with him, he'll just attack so fast, he'll start pecking them off one by one in quick, rapid succession. Single targets, he's specifically amazing against single targets because the majority of Voroth's kit is single target, and then if he gets struck, he will counterattack. In the sustained DPS, it's usually about like 4 to 6 enemies per wave. Same thing. He has a chance to just knock out the single targets very reliably, and then he has that chance for the counterattack to sweep and just hit everybody all at once. When it gets to the raids, we have kind of the common problem that anything flying, Voroth will just sit there and not do anything. So unless he needs experience, typically don't put him in these levels. In the mage levels, he is fine to bring to plug up that hole at the end. Again, I would say defenders are still a better use for this, so not necessarily amazing in mages. In endurance and melee attack, in both of these, he shines very heavily. Especially if you get him to the point where he's already awakened to 3, his ability to heal himself means that your healers will have an easier time rather than having to constantly throw heals on him. However, he does not do a counterattack based upon poison and burn damages, from what I have seen. There is a chance I am wrong about that, but I don't have a solid test for it. I guess I could take him into Dragon later. Maybe I'll do that off screen, because I've already done Dragon for today as well. I need to start planning out my videos a little better. Guild Boss. He's decent in Guild Boss. What makes him great in Guild Boss is he does rely on attack speed, and he's got a good attack stat. So he will put his damage into the dragon very reliably. Where I say that he's not necessarily his best is that counterattack is a passive in his kit. We do want it to activate as frequently as possible. Although every attack from dragon can proc Voroth so that Voroth could counterattack, the truth of the matter is dragon really only attacks like 4 times before he goes into that giant breath attack. So ideally, you're maybe getting off 1 or 2 counterattacks in between every giant breath. However, Voroth's ultimate is one of the perfect counters to that breath attack. Is that as the dragon starts to breathe in, you turn Voroth on, and for 11 seconds, Voroth is just hammering away into the dragon's belly. Artifact Material Raid, I do think is an amazing place for Voroth. I would say this is also one of the best places in the game for him. Besides, again, anywhere where you need like a tank that specifically is just doing a whole lot of damage and constantly counterattacking. Voroth is not really a tank. You will notice he takes plenty of damage as a Viking. But his counterattack and then, healing him up, and the fact that he can kill things almost always faster than they kill him makes him very valuable in a lot of situations. So just to show him off real quick here, Ein, I need you out. Psycho, you summoned Vierna. Congratulations. But so here is the passive of the Northerners. So that is why that giant golem came out and gave me a shield. But as you can see, with Vortex, we have this amazing synergy. And then my Vortex is actually awakened in a manner where he'll randomly put a shield on an ally, which in this case can be hitting Vortex more frequently.
Ready or not, this is war.
Trying to wait for the counter attack to happen. I don't know if I've missed it. I think it might have actually just been that jump there. Yeah, because I guess since it's only one enemy, he's just kind of counterattacking. But let's turn on the ultimate. Ready? Now, this is at 1 times speed. He starts attacking faster than, like, certain Bleach characters. He's attacking so fast, you see the trickle of movement speed from him, but not the actual swing of him, because he's just moving so ridiculously fast. Voroth feels amazing. When I got him, I was like, oh, he's a big beefy boy with a giant axe, and I love giant axes. So I was like, I'm going to mess around with him. He has been fantastic since I've started messing around with him. In things like Tide, he will absolutely be amazing in. His ability to take damage and then to counterattack will be very advantageous for you in things like Tide. And again, since Tide is mostly a BP check, a battle power check, this means that the more attack percentage, crit rate, crit damage, and attack speed we give Voroth, his BP will just fly through the roof. So by giving him a bunch of that gear and then throwing him into Tide, when these giant waves of enemies come rushing down and they start attacking him, if his counterattack procs, he'll probably just end up wiping away everything surrounding him. The same goes for Resource Raid. Resource Raids, both the gold and the EXP ones, it's ironic that he will be fantastic. I'm turning down the difficulty just so it doesn't mess with my pre-programmed parties. Voroth would be perfectly fine going at like number 7. But the thing I wanted to show off here is we can place him down and then place a tank down behind him. I've talked about this strategy before. This gives Voroth effectively a block power of 5. What I mean by that is, even if he's not killing these dudes off right away, even if they were to get through him, they're gonna get stuck on Olag here behind him. So here's a perfect example of all 5 coming in at one time. So as they try to get through and just walk on into him, oh, well, now they can't. And now if any of them were to attack Voroth, as we can see, he'll just jump on them and frickin' kill them. Actually, now that I think about it, that jump attack is absolutely that consecutive hit that he gets, not his AoE sweep. But here we have an enemy with lots of HP. Voroth kind of does not care. There's the giant sweep attack. I love it. Unfortunately, our Voroth is not geared well enough to kill everything fast enough. That is okay. Right now, he's just wearing some...
If this is the cost,
actually, I think he's wearing a Rotch's gear, so I'm a little shocked that he's not killing things faster. Not the point. But yeah, perfectly fine resource raids. Gear raids. In Gear Raid 1, we have swarms of enemies, and in Gear Raid 2, we have the rollers. Both of these places are amazing for Voroth. Voroth also being able to get in those shield effects from his faction leader. Hopefully you get somebody better than Dagna. You can use Dagna, but she's just not one of my favorite champions. That can help his survivability until you get him awakened more. But he is a champion that I would argue awakening him early on an account could be a very good thing. We've talked about this before. Wrath is kind of like the #1 champion that will absolutely carry you an enormous distance in this game. Voroth absolutely is like a chasing behind Wrath second place. He is trying very hard to be like a high damage dealer, an amazing like off tank, you know, not an actual tank, but a fighter that puts out plenty of damage and can sustain well on his own. And the small advantage that Voroth has is that you can get to that at like Awakening 3. Ideally, though, at Awakening 5 is when you'll notice his sustain goes up a lot higher. And then any way that you can give him a shielding effect will also help tremendously. Last but not least, the faction trials. So in the faction trials, in the basic trial, he is very usable. There's plenty of times where you just want something to block, but you also want it to put out damage, and a lot of the enemies are weak enough, he will kill them fast enough. As you get further down into the basic faction trial, there are enemies that can one-shot him. So this is where you'll want to focus on more HP for him, or understand you will need that shielding effect to keep him alive. I've already done the Viking ones, and unfortunately they won't let me, show off a level, even though I've already beaten it. It'd be nice if they just took away like the rewards and the EXP. But for me right now, for my faction trial, he is really my only damage dealer that I have. I have him and Harpun as my Northerners. Other than that, I have 2 healers, I have a tank, I have a debuffer, and I have a rare tank. So for me, Voroth recently got to 6-star, not only because I liked him, but because I was having a harder time pushing my faction trials further with him at rank 5. So I did have to switch some gear onto him and promote him to 6. Again, though, I do want to stress, I do think he's a great champion. He's performing very well. If you like Vikings, I think he's a good champion. If you like this ice motif with this giant axe, I think he's a fantastically designed champion. The only thing I will say that's like a very nuanced thing, because he's of the north and he gets that shield, that's the only thing where I kind of dislike. I wish that he was like a nightmare or an infernal, where it would make more sense, like, more angry, more rage, just constantly attacking everything, a little bit more bloodthirsty. But I do get, he's a northerner, Vikings are from the north, I get it. It's a thing. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching this Evaluate the Epic of Voroth. What was he, the Northern Chieftain? The Icefall Chieftain?
Fear thy God and die well.
Man, I really need to plan out these videos better. Oh, it doesn't tell me in here. It only tells me in the gallery. Oh no. I'm ruining the end of my own video. The Frozen Heart Chief. Got it. I got it. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this content, please hit the like and subscribe button down below. If you want to see us over on twitch.tv/sprinklebeard, we stream pretty much Sunday through Wednesdays when I'm not too tired from working my full-time factory job. But of course, until that next time, ta-ta.